Valor.
Valor.
Coward of Valor. That's an intriguing title. It makes me wonder what that means.
Yeah, it's a bit like
Very
typical strain.
That's right. Yeah, the contrasting. Yeah, that's true.
Hot cold.
Hot cold.
Now you make me think of Katy Perry. Okay. No, with a hot cold, you made me think of Katy Perry.
Oh God! Oh no! Oh no! You're gonna put an earworm in my head with that song.
Do you regret it?
Oh jeez! Listen to it now. The exercise. Not doing this. Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 407. The topic of this QUACKCAST is regrets and resolutions. Or resolutions and regrets. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to regret that choice. I resolve not to regret it. So, this is the Drunk Duck QUACKCAST, of course, and with me is Baines and Tance. Hi, you two marvellous people who I will never regret meeting.
Hello. Don't speak too soon.
You're both fantastic. I've met Tance in person a couple of times this year, actually. Even though this QUACKCAST comes out on the first day of the new year of 2019, we're still in 2018, and I have still met Tance in the year I'm recording this QUACKCAST for her birthday, which was magnificent.
Yes.
It was, so cool. But I haven't met Baines in person yet, which is not fair.
That's why you don't regret it yet.
Yeah.
We'll manage to show up at his doorstep at some point.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
For Baines' birthday.
I often, several times I've been walking around, going about my stupid life, and I'm like, wow, what if, people were here and I had to, entertain them? Or show them some kind of good time. I was like, what the hell would I do?
We'd kick out all your tenants.
The corner.
You'd house us.
This is where I go to the grocery store.
This is where you go get coffee every day.
This is where I go to get coffee, and you don't have to remember it because we'll be back in an hour and a half again.
This is my drinking straw.
It's all incredibly uninteresting. So,
it would be marvelous because it would
go
be
somewhere
Canadian,
else and meet
man.
you guys.
It would be amazing.
Yeah,
but you can come over here in Greece and we will find something to do.
Yes.
Tance, haven't you got a Canadian passport?
I do actually. Yeah.
There, you see.
I'm actually. I can also pass as a Quebecois. So.
Yes.
Oh wow. What's that?
I am also a Quebec citizen.
That's so cool. Yeah. Oh my Jesus. You heard it here, folks. Tance is from everywhere in the world. She's like a spy. Wherever you can name. She'll have papers and identity and everything. So
I actually have a small crypt where I keep passports from every country. So.
As a Russian spy, she has to do that. So. It's part of the
papers,
game.
Please.
I'm a Russian spy. I mean, I could be something else.
Yeah, but you're a Russian spy. We know that.
Russian spy is just a cover.
For being a Russian spy. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Regrets and resolutions. But before we get into that, we have the featured comic to bring up. And the featured comic this week was something I did because, aren't I great? I'm doing the last featured comic of the year, which was Coward of Valor. So, here I am with Coward of Valor. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was Coward of Valor. Coward of Valor. So, Val needs to get some meat for dinner. His mum says so. The market is about to close, so he has to go and hunt bubbits. But he's cowardly and easily frightened, and bubbits have sharp teeth and a bad temper, and he worries they'll eat him. His fears are almost justified. but a pretty girl by the name of Cora saves him. There's a strange mystery surrounding the fearless Cora, a mystery that's about to bring Val more trouble than he ever dreamed. And thus begins an epic fantasy adventure. This is a really fun and compelling story set in a fantasy world. It's a comedy action adventure. The art is mainly black and white, line art, mostly pencil on paper with chibi-style characters. It starts off a little rough, but gets smoother in the later pages. And there are a lot of pages to read. This comic is quite long, and you'll get absorbed into it pretty quickly, I think. It's a story that carries you along. It's got really, really nice pacing. Characters you can also very easily identify with and get into. So it's really good characterization, good kind of plot, good pacing. It's got a lot of things going for it. The art is mostly line art and pretty scratchy, but that improves as you go along, and it does the job. It really does work. It's rough. It's a good looking, smooth comic, and yeah, it's obviously been going on for a long time. He's uploading it. Well, he is a he. He's uploading it to Drunk Duck, so he's obviously already produced a few of these, I think, and now he's putting them all through on Drunk Duck gradually. And so you're having quite a lot of comic to go through if you feel like getting into the story of Coward of Valor. And if you're wondering where the title comes from, the main character's name is Val, and I think his full name is Valor, perhaps. And he's a pretty cowardly fellow, so there you go. I hope you enjoy the comic. It's by Matt Deadpan, or Matt at Deadpan. And it's rated E for everybody. Read it. And that was our featured comic, which was Coward of Valor. Alright, so after that we have the music by Gun Wallace, and this week Gun Wallace has given us the theme to a comic called Fight. Fight with all capital letters, that's what it is. So, roll in like an armored ball of fury thundering through. Nothing will stop you. Nothing can stop you. This is power, aggression, and movement, undeterred and arrows straight. Take it away, Gun Wallace, with Fight. Was the theme to Fight. And this Fight is a collaborative comic by Ed Bang, who writes a story. Also Malai, I never pronounced his name properly, who used to be really big into Drunk Duck back in the day, and he's sort of come back. Brought back, of course, by Just No Point, who is one of our royal patrons. So,
awesome.
Yeah, they're all together, doing a comic together.
Cool.
Called Fight. About sort of a manga anime kind of thing. With, fighting
And
characters.
I guess there's a lot of fight in it. Yeah.
Oh, yes. A lot of fight. So,
Fight.
after that, we have our topic, which is regrets and resolutions.
Regrets and resolutions.
So, regrets. I've had a few.
Now do what it did.
Hey?
Huh?
It make me answer in Frank Sinatra.
Go on, Tan. Do your best, Frank.
No. No, I'm not walking into that one again. That would be a regret.
I won't sabotage you. Don't worry.
No.
So regrets. Well, I did a whole news post on this idea because regrets are something you have towards the end of the year, especially if you have lots of resolutions, because you regret your resolutions that you weren't able to carry on with, or you regret the things that you weren't able to complete in the year. Like, oh my God, I didn't do enough pages of Pinky TA or Bottomless Waitress. I was going so well and I stalled because I thought, damn it, I just want to do a Pinky TA page. Now I've done a few Bottomless Waitress, so maybe I've got my groove back. Maybe I can transfer some of that energy onto Pinky TA. Maybe. But no, Pinky TA was a bulldozer right in my path like it always is. Thump! You cannot pass. So yeah, Pinky TA is always like so much bloody work and detail, and that's just how it is. Whereas Bottomless Waitress is a joy to draw because Baines has already done the script. It's a fun script. It writes it draws itself, and the art is simple and direct, and there's not much detail, and everything gets it looks great enough as it is. So yeah, it
does look great, man. I always love hearing that you find it easy and relaxing and everything like that, because it looks so darn good.
Oh, thank you.
It's kind of amazing that you're like, it's easy. Well, I was like, oh wow, that's awesome.
I was happy to do as many pages as I did on that, and I could have done so much. I could have been pumping out a page a week pretty much. I could have gotten to that level, but Pinky TA was calling.
Yes.
And I heeded the call, unfortunately, and it just...
Well, you don't want to let it sit too long. I mean, you did some... you were cranking out some pages this year, That's even if it stalled out, you can sort of...
Oh, it was...
You can feel good about that.
It was a rocket launcher right in the face. Pinky TA. It stopped all progress. I mean, I was going to finish it for the end of the year, but, whatever. Maybe I'll finish it in the first week. Yeah, it's almost done. It's just damn hard. Anyway, so that's a resolution that I sort of regret. But I think my main post about regrets was the idea of there's something you should not dwell on. They are a teaching moment, as various people have said, but what we often do is we go, oh, what if? What could have been? What if only I had done this instead? It all would have been better. So you can use regrets as a teaching moment. You can say, yeah, and if I had done this, oh, that's where I went wrong. Then it could have been a bit more better. Or, maybe next time I'll try it this way. And that's fair enough. But if you extrapolate that too far and go, yeah, I could have done better if I did this. And I would have done better. And I wouldn't be in this terrible situation as I am now. And I would have produced way more pages if only. Lost opportunities. Damn it. And that's a problem because that's all fictional. There's no such thing as lost opportunities or missed opportunities and missed moments, because the reality is that so many more things have to go right in order for that alternative hypothetical situation to have gone through to completion and something else to have happened, and have a different situation. In reality, it's never just one thing that goes wrong or just one decision being made a different way. Oh, I should have picked green instead of blue. No, it's so many more things, but our minds trick us into thinking that it's all just one thing. It's that one thing I missed out, and then everything would have been better. And your mind constructs an alternative world where everything is streamlined right to the point where things work out in a different way, which is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what leads to depression. And it's not what the thing that leads to depression. It's one of the things that can lead to being feeling unsatisfied and upset with yourself. So
let's say it makes you being more likely to aggravate the situation that might be dysthymic.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way.
Exactly.
And you also have to remember that when we have regrets, we also have hindsight, which is a very useful tool in order to learn to estimate things in the future, but it's also something that is very dangerous in terms of how you evaluate your own self in that particular moment in the past when you made the decision that you feel you wouldn't have made anymore. Because when you know things, even by knowing how it came out, how it panned out, let's say, that's knowledge that you didn't have then, and which, of course, alters your decision making. And or if, for example, you know some bit of information that you didn't know back then you shouldn't be regretting it in the sense that you were acting with the best tools that you had at the time, and you were acting based on the circumstances that you had at the time, and that's the best that you could do. You know better now because now you have extra information that you didn't have then.
Yes.
That's one thing. Okay. And that is something that's very basic in cognitive psychology. We say it all the time that don't conflate the information you have now and the perspective you have now with the perspective you had, for example, in the beginning of the year, or 5 years ago, or when you were a kid. Because we're talking about a completely different set of information data available to you. So you have to trust yourself that at least at the point in time that you are thinking of, with what you knew back then, you made the better choice that you could, that was within your range to do, that was realistic, realistically available to you, not in general, just realistically available. Now you know better because you have the extra information, because you know more, because things have been revealed to you, because whatever. But that's irrelevant to be back then. So you shouldn't be regretting that, at least.
Exactly. And a lot of those things that people regret are things that like are been and gone and dead and over with. You can't, like you say, you can't go back and change them. And that's information you had now. That's information you didn't have then. And often it's not even a teaching moment. It's not even something you can learn from your mistake, because that's something that was done that you would have known better now with more information, but it's something that was so basic that you would have never have been in that position to start with, or made those mistakes or whatever. So yeah, it can be doubly pointless to regret things in the past, because it's a past situation that's never going to happen again, basically. It's like, oh damn, if only I'd studied harder in school and not gone and done sports instead of studied my math homework or whatever, then things would have been so different. And yeah, I know better now, but yeah, there's no way you're going to go back and change that. You can go forward. Maybe you can take other classes or whatever and go back to university and become better. But yeah, that kind of hindsight is useless to dwell on. Stuff.
Yeah, used in that way to kind of wallow in the past and sort of just burn your energy, like being worried about something that's so completely out of your control.
One of the things that is very applicable to webcomics, people always go on, if only I'd started doing my webcomics back in the late 90s or the early 2000s. God, I would have been one of the big, most famous people now, Sluggy Freelance and 8-Bit Theatre, Penny Arcade. All these guys started off in the early 2000s or the late 90s, and man, I could have just been so big. Yeah, well, that's past now. It doesn't matter. There's always it's never too late to start. You can always start now and become big. You don't have to go back when you were being a big fish in a small pond and make a lot of money or become a big success. You could always be a big success. It doesn't matter where you start, as long as you put the work in. All right. So don't regret that kind of stuff. There's also people who say, oh God, I've been planning to do this webcomic for 3 years now. I've got all the character studies ready. I've got the outline fully done. I've picked up, I've drawn a whole detailed map of my environment, and I've plotted out everything. And oh God, but I don't know when I'm going to start. And and they're too afraid of making mistakes and regretting those. Don't overthink it. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have less regrets if you do it rather than wait and keep on planning and keep on plotting, because it's less likely to happen. Just do it, man. Just take that leap. If you've done the work,
and also
do it.
The other thing I wanted to say about it is that okay, you have this other scenario that you think may have happened if you did something differently, and it may have some validity, because okay, maybe if you didn't do that choice and you made this other choice, you would have different consequences, like different effects, stimulus and response sort of relations. But what you don't know is the extra information that you would have accumulated had you made that other choice. So you may have started, for example, your webcomic back in the 90s, but you aren't probably factoring in the other elements that were a thing in the 90s that are not a thing now, and you are not thinking about it. For example, dial-up connections, or the fact that people didn't go to the internet to read comics, or the fact that you couldn't actually have the technology to make webcomics that you have now, and things like that. So other difficulties that you are not thinking of right now, and you're just trying to sort of shoehorn one situation into a different situation, forgetting the other obstacles you would be facing, and then you would be telling yourself, what a fool I was that I started this early, when I have now this ton of crappy chapters that I have nothing to do, to do with. And if I only had started now, it would be glossy and new, and it would be on all of these mirrors, and people would love it. I mean, it's so easy to end up regretting anything and everything if you are in that sort of headspace. But if you take it objectively, chances are that you would still meet with obstacles. They would just be different ones, and maybe sometimes they would be worse ones too.
True.
So,
one of the points I make in the news post is that it really doesn't matter. It's not that it doesn't matter. Okay, one of the points I made is that you can put in all the effort in the world. You can have all the passion, all the time. You can make all the compromises in order to just go forward for your objective. You can put everything you can and invest money, invest time. You can travel. You can do all that stuff, all towards your goal, and still fail. So regrets are even more pointless, because often, you can read all the signals right, you can do everything right and still fail, and that happens all the time. So it's not just a case of missing one thing. Things can still mess up, no matter how much effort you put in. So when you think back and think, if I, like Tance was saying, if back in the 90s or back in the early 2000s, if I had done this comic and, I'd be big now. But then you ignore the other obstacles you would have run into. But even if you did, run into those obstacles and pass them, Like, dial up, I conquered that. It doesn't matter because, you know, I'm willing to wait and get things done anyway. Oh, and I found web hosting and I've managed to do that and teach myself HTML like you had to back then. And yeah, it could still have failed. And I know that because I knew so many comics that were around in the early 2000s that started then. So many that aren't around today. They failed. They went nowhere. So it doesn't matter when you started, really. You can, or how much effort you put in. You know, you can get it online. You can get a bit of a following, and still. So don't worry about things that you can't change because they're in the past. Because likely it would have gone that way anyway. It's a much smaller chance that it would have succeeded than it would have failed. This, whatever you're regretting. Success is the outlier for a lot of things. For some things, you know, yeah, you're going to succeed. But for big things, for amazing things to have happened, those are the outliers. Because they are amazing. They wouldn't be amazing if they happened all the time, would they? So those amazing results are difficult to get, and often it involves a lot of luck and chances and circumstance. Like, you know, all these Penny Arcade, that's one of the biggest webcomics. Well, it used to be anyway. And 8-Bit Theatre used to be really huge. I don't know who's big now, but those guys, they didn't get big because they were the best artists or, you know, the funniest writers or the best comics around at the time. They got big because circumstance. Things just happened to go right for them. Yeah, they were good artists and good writers, but there were a lot of good writers around. There always are. It's like bands. Some people think, oh, what are the best bands in the 1960s? Well, the Beatles, because they were the biggest, so they must have been the best. The Beatles weren't the best band in the 1960s, but they became the biggest because circumstance was right for them. You know, they went to America, they got, you know, picked up on these radio stations, they made the right friends, they had good promoters and things like that, so things worked out for them. So it's circumstance. And if that hadn't gone right, then they would have been, you know, just another one of these millions of other bands that no one ever heard of now, like a Caravan. That's a great band, but, you know, they didn't become so big like the Beatles because they didn't have all the right circumstance. So that's an important thing to realize. So do not regret not becoming huge because of some little situation, because it takes a lot more than that to become big.
and the thing is that just the thing that you feel you should be regretting, just look at it, see why you made that choice that you wouldn't do now, and teach yourself what to look out for next time so that you don't make another choice that you will end up, regretting later. And then you have used, this is the golden experience thing that, you have paid for it, own it, in the sense, how do you own it? I don't regret it because now I have this experience and I will not do it again.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you are richer.
Like we were talking to Tance just before, I think we were talking within the, when I was doing the song. So Tance regrets dancing in high heels drunk because she had a bit of a tumble. Well, no, but you used that as a teaching moment, and you said to us, next time I'm going to dance sober. So you won't have the fall.
Well, there are two choices you have to make in this. Do I care that I have fallen over while I was dancing drunk? Which is a very legit question, right? You may not care. Or if I do care, what do I want to do next in the circumstances, in the perfect storm that made you fall over while you were dancing drunk? It's either the heels or the drink. Mix one of those and you're going to be okay. So, but the idea is that you have to also, be frank with yourself, in the sense that There are these kinds of regrets that you say you regret it just so that people won't call you out in that you made a mistake, but you don't really care as much, so you end up doing it again and again. That's another thing. If you end up regretting the same thing over and over again, then consider that you may not actually be having a problem with it. Maybe you are not regretting it.
Yeah.
So, because,
Right.
for example, I said that when I'm with friends and I want to show off, and especially when I know I'm being recorded, which is one thing. That's the one thing that worries me. When I'm being recorded, I will make sure that it will not fall over again because I don't want to go viral on that. If I am to go viral, I would like it to be about something else.
Don't worry,
However-
I've only shared that video with Pitface. No one else has seen it.
And now you can.
It
offer
did go
as-
viral with her, though.
You can now offer it as a special patron. What's your follow. Anyway, it wasn't a spectacular tumble, so you would be disappointed, guys. And
It was pure
So,
grace, as you'd expect from Tarns.
thank you. I don't share the sentiment, but thank you. The thing is that if I'm not being recorded, I don't care as much because it's all in the moment. And there is going to be several other occasions where I am wearing heels, I am dancing, and I am also drunk. So the odds of this happening again, I suppose, are healthy. But the odds of it happening again while people are recording that I know of are far slimmer. And I'm okay
Yeah.
with this. So that's another thing to consider. Like if you actually do you mind? Then stop regretting it if you don't. Or change
That's
whatever
a
you are
good
doing
point.
to do.
That's a good point because, okay, we've talked about the idea of using these instances as teaching them and thinking, I won't make that mistake again. For the other perspective is, I've made that mistake and it wasn't so bad. So next time
Yeah.
when I get in that situation, I won't be afraid of making that mistake because I've already done it once and it wasn't a problem. That sort of plays into the idea of these people who like umming and ahhing about starting webcomics. Yeah, just start it, make a few mistakes, mess up, maybe your comic goes nowhere and it's finished and all that 3 years of work is just because you've just thought this idea is stupid, someone else has done it anyway, and I'm bored with it. Well, use that experience to make a new one because it's not so bad now. You've tested the waters. You know how it is to make a webcomic. There's nothing to be afraid of. Just go
Yeah.
for it.
I mean, there is something to be said for when you're writing a story to plan it out, even a gag comic, to sort of plan ahead so you have enough so you don't end up hitting a wall. But I actually agree with you more because of the fact that it's so easy to do nothing and be paralyzed by that, and you never do it, you know? So, I agree with
Yes.
that.
The old
in.
Hamlet.
Jump in, and then you can do better next time. It's not, the stakes are low with the webcomic, really, you know?
Yeah, that's
You can
true.
do it over.
Yeah, that's a good point. The stakes are really... It's not like you're producing, a $50 million film. This is a comic here.
And those flop as well.
Yeah,
and people
they
don't-
do.
Mhm.
Those flop, and the good people, they go forward and they do more. And they keep going.
Or they actually insist that they did well, even though everybody's telling them they did wrong, and they continue and do it again and again and again.
And their
It's
name
fine.
is UA Bowl. And they will never stop.
I'm not convinced that he's actually making a mistake, Ball, because he actually makes a profit.
That's
Okay.
right.
I was, yeah,
He keeps getting those movies funded.
exactly.
Well, I was watching something, the worst movies or the biggest flops ever, and he featured in like as number one for Postal. And Postal is one of the few that I've seen of him, and it wasn't that bad. It was bad, but I've seen way worse movies than that. So I don't know. I can't call that his worst movie. So there we are. Even if if a film does not make money, it doesn't mean it's not a bad one. Oh, but that's just an aside. That's meaningless. So resolutions. That was the other thing. Resolution. So is this something you guys do? Do you resolve to do something as the year comes up? Do you ever do that?
Never. I never.
Never.
Never. No, never. I don't. Oh, go on, Ben. Sorry.
Not really. Yeah, I don't really do it either. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I start to kind of think that way, like I was saying, and I've maybe done it here and there, but overall, not really. I do think there's a way to do it, and this maybe slightly contradicts what we've been talking about, but maybe not. But we can get into that later after you say your piece on resolutions.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say that I don't formally do resolutions because I think we all learn that formal resolutions just don't work out. And that's something that's in TV shows and movies and doesn't really apply to reality as you learn. But I've had informal resolutions. I've thought, yeah, this year I'm going to do more pages of my comic, sort of thing. You know, this year I'm going to do more. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put more effort in. So I've had that kind of thing. So yeah, that's my point. What about you guys?
Well, I, as a rule, avoid making resolutions because I find them to be mostly based on a narrative that may not have much of a basis on reality. So you might actually be saying, I'll do this and that just because it's the fashionable or the socially expected thing to do. Like, yes, I'm going to work more and be better. And, things like that, especially very vague things. That
yeah, that's right.
When your resolution is very vague, and that also, like, take it as a professional opinion, that's another thing that we say when we cancel. Like, when you have a very vague goal or resolution, or call it whatever you like, it's setting you up for failure 100%. Doesn't matter what it is. If it is vague enough, you are gonna fail. And I am going to win the bet every single time, no matter how good you are, or how determined or whatever. And the reason for that is that it is so vague, so that anything that remotely fits this, let's say, category of things, and that you, for whatever reason, haven't taken care of, will end up feeling like it is a failure. For example, I'm going to be a better person. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. What is a better person?
Yeah, and what is it, and how will you measure this? Or I'm going to be a better parent. That's another winner there.
Right.
Or I'm going to be a better artist. Oh my God, that's one again for the winners hall of fame, because first off, there are two problems you have with these resolutions. First, it is again very vague. What is a good father? What is a good artist? What is a good, I don't know, person in general? Yeah, and then you have the relative statement, which is better. Okay. What is a better something? Because you might be better, but you will not necessarily be also good, is what I mean. So for example, if a person says, I'm going to be a better person, and being a better person means that they don't go around abusing people, but physically, for example, but they abuse them verbally, they are theoretically better because they have stopped one behavior, but they are still douchebags. So this is, of course, an extreme example, but what I'm saying is that you are setting yourself up to get some feedback, negative feedback, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Even by comparing yourself to someone else that is also becoming better, but perhaps is starting at a higher level than you are starting, or they have a steeper learning curve, or whatever. So you will be comparing, and your improvement will not look as impressive to you compared to something else. So if you are gonna go through with the resolution thing, that's what I'm suggesting is state something objective, that it's on a pass-fail basis. Like, I'm going to do this. That amounts to X amount of things that have to be done in order for this, to have been achieved.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I've seen that with a few web comics. They've said, okay, I'm going to produce a sketch a day for 30 days, or maybe I'm going to produce a sketch a day for like 6 months or something like that. And they've done it, and it's been marvelous, and they've improved markedly by doing that kind of thing. And that's a really good idea to do. So when you go with concrete goals like that, it can really, it's like setting yourself like deadlines and things like that. It can really sort of help you work towards something. So yeah, have that as a resolution. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
by all means do that.
Don't set them unrealistically high. Like, say, if I could say, all right, my goal is to produce a page a day, or a page a week even, of Pinky TA for the next 4 months. So that's not realistic for me. I couldn't do it because I have too many other commitments and things like that, and those just take too long. So maybe I could like kill myself to produce, like, maybe, I could do like get up to 3 or something like that. In the first 3 weeks, I'd produce a page a week, and then that would mess up, and then that would fall off. And then if I look back at that and said, oh yeah, but I resolved to do a page a day and I only got up to 3, God, I'm such a failure. I've failed my resolution already. So setting your resolutions unrealistically high can be a problem as well. So make it something that's achievable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even though I think on the Patreon video I said like the idea of maybe finishing a story, a comic chapter, a story every 2 months or something, not necessarily a good idea to do that approach. And I understand that. It's like doing something more like I'm going to draw at least 10 or 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah,
that's my goal. That kind of thing. It's way less daunting, than saying I'm going to finish an entire comic this year. Like that you sabotage yourself kind of, right? Because it seems like you can't do it. Or I'm going to write a novel this year. It can be too, like,
yeah.
It's I don't know what the terminology would be, but you can sabotage yourself.
You can't see the forest. You can't see the trees for the forest in that respect because you're going all the way to the big picture, the big plan, without having all the little steps in between that you need to get there. So for a novel, you've got to like plot the whole thing out. Well, you don't necessarily have to plot the whole thing out, but it really helps. But you've got to have like, okay, so what do I write? 1,000 words a day in order to get this done?
You can set words, even 500, like little things like that. Like whatever
Not
you can do
500.
realistically, or less,
usually,
250.
Yeah, professional authors tell themselves like I'm gonna write 200 words per day at least.
Yeah,
that's 200 words. It's ridiculous. It's like 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
So
very doable.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you shouldn't be looking down on your resolution once you make it. So, for example, you tell yourself correctly that, okay, I'm going to be drawing 10 minutes every day, as Bain said, which is an excellent resolution. And then you do it and you achieve it, but instead of patting yourself on the back, you turn around and say, so what? Anyone can do that. Like, yeah, I've achieved my resolution, but the bar is so low I can crawl over it. So that again won't help you. First of all, because that's actually not correct. If you discipline yourself to consciously draw 10 minutes every day, then it adds up, and
Yes.
you will end up creating volume before you realize it. And second off, not everyone sits down to do it. It's not a low bar. It's just the first rank on a ladder, if you'd like to diminish it. So nobody, if you don't have you ever tried, because I have, that was also hilarious, climbing one of those fireman ladders that happens to not have the first couple of rungs. You have to start from rank number 3, and you are a very short person. That can be a very suspenseful, thrilling experience. Not only going up, also going down. So what I'm saying is that the first ranks in any ladder are actually very important. So, don't look down on them.
Yeah, true. And maybe you've produced like 10 minutes of drawing this day and that day and the next day. But can you keep that up for an entire year? Can you do that every day? That's something big. And maybe by the end of a certain week, you missed a couple of days. And then you have to catch it up. So you have to draw like half an hour worth of drawing in order to, or maybe like an hour worth of drawing that you have to do because you missed out those days. And then it becomes a bit bigger. It's a bit harder to produce the same, kind of an hour's worth of drawing.
You could, depending on the kind of person you are, or you could just say, well, no, I missed 2 days. I'm just going to pick it up now. I'm going to do my 10 minutes and keep going.
Yeah.
You don't have to be punishing, because, I know to me that kind of thing is definitely sabotaging. That leads to like giving up. It's like gets to be too big. Like, I can't do it.
Yeah. Oh my God, I've missed 2 months worth of drawing. That's 2 days I have to do.
Now I have to draw 20 hours a day for 2 days. It's like, no, don't think that way. You don't have to. Just pick up your 10 minutes again, And often you'll go more, whether it's writing or drawing. Like, you'll be on a roll. You'll be like, okay, well, I'm good. I'll do another 10 minutes, because I'm into it.
That's a good point.
It'll happen.
At least 10 minutes.
Set yourself up for, success at it, not for like berating yourself in any way or punishing yourself.
Yeah. That leads to bad things. Sense. No self-flagellation here. No. Yeah. So those are great resolutions. So take things down to the smaller steps, the steps that actually work. Yeah, like it's exactly as Tance was saying before. It's I want to be a better person, and that's the same thing as saying I want to write a novel. Or I want to get a movie done. It's big, airy-fairy goals with no actual concrete steps of how to get there. And those are useless resolutions. You've got to have if you want to write a novel, your resolution is to do 200 words a day. So you've got to start that way. I want to get better at drawing. No, you don't want to get better at drawing. You want to do 10 minutes of drawing a day, or you want to do 20 minutes of drawing a day, whatever. That's what you want to do, because that will lead to getting better at drawing. You want to, I want to become I want to do a movie. Well, if you want to do a movie, start small and do storyboard a short. Just storyboard a short. See if you can do that. Or go to film school, Try and do that. Like, take
a film
more realistic.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly.
An online course or whatever.
I want to get my
Or-
webcomic online.
Or work on your film 10 minutes a day. There's a script, there's a storyboard, there's like research to do into cameras, there's like,
Yeah,
making calls to actors. There's stuff you can do, it's like I work on this
learn
every
the
day.
industry, start getting connections, because that's the very important thing. More important than talent. So, start getting to know people in the industry that you
And
like.
how do you do that? Go to film school, because that's where these people hang out. That's one of the easiest places to find where they hang out. Or if you're in a place where they do films, obviously you could, like in Hollywood or something, it'd be a bit easier to make those connections. But for most of us, we don't live in a town like that. So go to your film school and make connections there, or learn how to make the connections and progress from there. So yeah, there's those kind of things. Start always with the small things, the building blocks, the little Lego pieces, rather than the enormous Lego castle that you see on the front of that box that you're never going to build because you're too focused on the big picture. Big picture thinkers are great, but you need someone to actually build the things the big picture people are always talking about.
Yeah.
And
It's not good if you cannot parse it. So
Yeah.
you have to have the big picture, but you also have to know how to get there. And that is a skill. And you can learn that. It's not divine. It's not rocket science, and it's not divine intervention. You just learn it. So
think structurally. Like, what's this big picture actually made out of? Oh, I see. The old saying is, he can't see the forest for the trees. The person, they're not able to see the big picture because they're too focused on the minutia. But we're sort of talking it the other way here. You can't see the trees for the forest. So that's an important distinction. Both approaches are equally valid, but you have to know the steps in order to get to that big picture. So yeah, that's important. Well, I think I've done that particular analogy to death. So
Maybe just one more time. Hit it again.
Oh, jeez. So yeah, resolutions can be helpful as long as they're smart resolutions, thinking intelligently. As Tance put it so well when she introduced the whole idea.
Yeah.
And we've just been reiterating it and re-examining. And then you won't have any regrets. Oh, well, actually,
Hooray!
regrets are an important thing. That, you've actually done something in order to get to having regrets. So I think what they often say is the biggest regrets are things that we just haven't bothered to do. Like, oh damn, why I've always loved the sound of the violin. Why didn't I ever pick it up and start learning? Well, don't regret it, just do it. All those kind of things are things that you shouldn't be regretting, you should be doing. There's this old idea that people keep putting forward even today. It's like, oh my God, young people, they've got like the brain is plastic and they can learn so many things. And once you're a certain age, well, don't even bother. Just like if you didn't start learning piano at 6 years old or at 3 years old, just don't even bother. Like if you didn't start drawing at 5 years old and have been drawing since then, well, it's just a waste of time because you'll never have that talent. You'll never have that ability. Well, those arguments are bullshit. The whole idea of only children can do things is an excuse by people who are too afraid to go and approach those things themselves. They're too set in their ways and they make excuses.
It's also a bit of a myth in the sense that there is a reason why kids tend to learn so much and so well, and that the reason is that it's their job. They're students.
That's a good
so people seem, again, it's the thing that I said in the beginning, you are thinking about something without considering all the peripheral circumstances that are very key to this particular situation. So, barring very specific things that, yes, do have a time window and a time frame, and they are very, very few and very specific. Like you need to learn to speak your native language up until a certain age. After that, you are again going to be able to do it, but not as well. Now, these are very, very few things, and we all have them already. Anything else, the adult brain actually can learn better and more efficiently, like faster. That's why, if you have noticed, the adult classes about things generally are also crash courses instead of being drawn out courses, that are for small, young students. So, and there's a reason for that, because the adult person can actually handle it. They can handle big chunks of information at once sitting. So they can handle having a crash course. And that's because they have adult brains that are far better geared to actually learning. And that's the truth.
Yeah,
and the other thing is a myth. It's just that the kids put in like how many, let's tally up how many hours, assuming that they work on studying and practicing and learning 8 hours a day, which is more often. Usually it's much more. But let's say you have 8 hours per day for, say, 5 days, because mom is going to make you study on Sunday or Saturday, one of those 2 days. So, 5-8-40, we're talking 40 hours of only learning per week. So
they've got the time to spend, and that's what they use it for, and that's the only factor. And as you say, the brains aren't as good at picking those things up. So if you look at a kid who's learning how to draw, they'll be drawing, but they're not going to reach a really good level. Even the most amazingly so-called talented kids don't learn how to draw really, really well until like they're at least like 12 or 13 or something like that. And that's from years of drawing. You know, a child who's been drawing since they're like 2, by the time they're 5 or 6, their drawings are still objectively pretty shit. They're crap, really. And adults doing drawing daily, I've seen this with my own eyes many times, because I've been an art student, and like I've been in that world, art academia, for many years, and I've seen it myself. Adults learning to draw, and they're starting out at a 6-year-old level. Within a year, they're pretty amazing. Like within 2-3 years, my God, they're incredible. So adults learn things much faster. If you're going to put in the time and the effort, that's all you need to do.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like with musical instruments as well. And like with Tanza saying, like there is a window for some things, your native language, gymnastics. If you want to be a fantastic gymnast and do all sorts of spins and that, sorry, you're going to have to be a little kid or maybe like someone within a certain age range, maybe up to 25 at the most, in order to do that. And then you can't do it.
You have to get that window of plasticity so that your body can adjust. But that's not the same with brains.
Exactly.
Your brain doesn't have that kind of time limitation. After you have managed to not get brain damage while you're growing, then you're good to go. Your brain is going to just tackle everything, and it's going to be amazing, and you're going to learn anything and everything that you actually want. There is nothing stopping you from it. There is no such thing as I don't have the talent for something. Again, I'm saying this as an educational psychologist. Talent is going to manifest after you reach a level of expertise.
Yes.
That's when we start seeing who has talent and who doesn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I taught digital animation at a tertiary level, and these people who came in that were in their 60s and their late 50s, they were fantastic. They picked it up like nothing. They just raced through the most advanced things that I could throw at them, and they were producing excellent animations. The kids... when I say kids, I mean 18-year-olds straight out of high school, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, early 20s. They didn't do as well. They didn't have the dedication, and they weren't picking up a lot of concepts and things. It was a lot harder for them to learn. So the older people were they had the motivation, and they had the ability to understand all these sorts of concepts I was throwing at them very, very easily. Whereas a lot of the younger people, I had to work a lot harder to get them to the same level and the same proficiency. So there's that.
That's another thing. I would like to add to this, and that's an excellent point, actually. I specialize in teaching argumentative compositions and also general narrative works, blah, 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 text. I teach text of all kinds. But the thing is that especially when you get kids that have to sit language learning exams, when it comes down to composition, you see that the test requires a kid that is, for example, 12 years old to be able to create argumentation that you would expect from someone that is at least 25, at least. And the thing is that you have to teach the kid to think in the way a 25-year-old would think, so that they will be able to pass the exam, without that being that they don't have the skill to create the text composition on a level that is required by the exam. So the thing is, what happens is that you get these poor young kids struggling with concepts that are way beyond their developmental level. And when I say developmental level, I mean maturity, because they haven't ever, worked a job as studying is a job, but it doesn't have the status and the significance that being in the workplace has. They haven't experienced certain things that you would need to experience in order to get into a mindset to start thinking certain things. So you need to break it down in completely different morsels. It makes the teacher's job a lot harder to teach certain things to younger students.
Right.
And because they don't have the maturity, they don't have the experience, they don't have the background that is necessary for certain things.
That's a good point. So there you are. You don't have to regret things that you hadn't done, because you actually have a greater ability to do them. There are people who think, my life is over. I've got kids now, so I won't have any time for all these great creative things that I used to do. Or that kind of, my creative days are behind me because I live for the children now, or I live just to make my living and just to survive, and that's all there is, and I will never be able to go back to my creative days. But that's not true. They're always ahead of you. You'll probably do it better because of what you've learned and experienced. You'll be way better when you finally have time to approach that. So don't have regrets, and don't look back to the past and think, oh, I've missed that opportunity, that's gone now, because you always have that within you. If you've got that passion, when you do have that time and you do have that space again in order to be able to put your efforts towards your passion, you'll be better than ever. You don't have to think, oh God, I could have been working on this all this time, but I had to bring up the kids and get them out of the way, or I had to do this, I had to do that, and I've lost all that time, and all these other people are way ahead of me because they've been working all this time. No, that's an artificial standard to work to, because it doesn't matter what those people are doing. It only matters what you want to do with your passion and your interest, and
exactly
use what
and
they've
also,
done as a lesson to be able to work to. You can see, that's how it's done. I'll go on, Tance, sorry.
Yeah, no. The other thing is also stop blaming your kids for the things that you didn't do and aren't doing. It's not their fault. It never is their fault. And you will always have opportunities to do the things that you haven't done if you actually really do want to do it, which is another thing. Like, you might like the idea, the concept. You might like to wear the uniform, but you may not want to put the effort that goes into earning the uniform. And then you find other excuses. Whatever, when I say uniform, I say whatever title it is that you are coveting. And then you find all sorts of excuses. I took an arrow to the knee. I never could. And that arrow could be to your knee, could be your kids, could be your city job, could be your city husband. And I'm not doubting that your husband or your spouse in general could be city, definitely. But if you keep blaming them for this, you will not actually go on and make a decision. It's either, do you want to ditch your city husband and do the thing that you want? That's a viable choice if you actually do want to do something like that. If you don't want to do something like that, then own it up to yourself. It will be cathartic. And see what you actually do want to do. It's the hardest thing because society actually demands us to have certain goals that are socially acceptable. You want to be whatever society is telling you should be. You should be a famous artist, a famous doctor. You should be the super mom that does 5 birthday cakes while she is working, and also, balancing the checks and keeping a house, dustless. Or you want to be the super mom that is also the super CEO executive, or all these insane things that we see also in sitcoms and in movies, especially chick flicks, are very toxic about this.
Sex in the City, unrealistic expectations.
And you see, how are they all so very well put together? Well, there is a very easy answer to this. They have the dressing department that dresses them every day before they walk onto the set. That's why they are so well put together all the time.
Precisely.
So,
step off camera and get touched up after every scene.
Exactly. Every 10 minutes, when they start sweating, they stop, they go sit down, get dubbed and everything, and then, ta-da! They walked out of the box again.
Why do they look so good? Because they literally spent 3 hours in makeup in the morning. They got up at 4 o'clock. They've been in that bloody makeup chair for 3 hours to look that great.
And they're not doing their own makeup. That's another thing.
Yeah.
You have professionals doing their makeup for them.
Exactly. Someone has dressed them. Someone has literally stitched this person into that outfit. That's why it fits so well, because that has been stitched onto them on stage, and it's get unpicked every afternoon as well to get it off. So, yeah.
I cannot recall who it was. One of the golden days of Hollywood, a bombshell to the the level of
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, Marilyn. I'm not sure if it was her, but someone like her. So she appeared in this movie in this amazing dress, like Jessica Rabbit style dress, with the sequins all over, perfect figure, smooth. It was fitting to the millimeter and you know, she dazzled everybody. And in the end, after, you know, they revealed how they shot the movie, I don't know how many years later, that wasn't even a dress. It was the front of a dress, because so many sequins are impossible to sew on a dress without having it come apart, actually tearing off the seams, or that's what they said back then. So it was impossible to have a dress like this and be a whole dress. So it was just the front half of the dress that was very carefully stitched onto the woman. Okay, it actually, before she walked on the set, she had it stitched right there and then.
Yeah.
And all the camera work was done in a way that she never showed her back in any way.
Wow.
So, yeah. So that was literally a dress that you could never have. It was impossible to have that dress. So imagine the poor women that would try to imitate this effect and would, of course, never get it. So what I'm saying is that what you see on screen is fantasy, and you have to consider it as fantasy, as something that you might want to imitate the style of, but you can never get absolutely, because it's not part of reality, actually.
Yeah.
So, yeah, same goes with everything society tells you should be.
Very good
Nobody.
point.
Can relate it to social media in a sense, right? This has taken another interesting direction, this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
The social media thing, where you're looking at a portrayal of a person, you're not seeing
all
the
social
seams,
media, yeah, just
flaws,
not just like
yeah.
Kardashians or whatever, but
Yeah.
you know, everybody
Yeah.
produced. Well, not everybody. A lot of people produce an idealized image of themselves, and there's camera filters now.
Sure.
There's software filters. Snapchat, all sorts of things will make people look way more beautiful and pretty and smooth complexion than is possible to achieve in reality, and it'll leave people ending up thinking they're less than, or they're lacking because they haven't got the perfect skin or that tiny nose and defined
people
cheekbones.
write things that sort of give an impression of something that engages everyone else's competitive thing or envious kind of instinct or whatever. That's, you know, it ain't necessarily so, as Louis Armstrong said.
Well, perhaps we should end the QUACKCAST on that marvelous note of Baines's. I see trees of green. All right. This has been QUACKCAST number 407, Regrets and Resolutions. So,
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah,
Happy New Year.
Happy
Make
2000.
good resolutions.
Yes.
Or don't make any. That's even better.
Happy 1999, not 1989, actually. Let's all go back to 1989 when the world was better and do everything right again.
Oh, no. Yes.
By the way, I listened to our Patreon, the bonus video you put up last time. And I listened to myself with great difficulty, and I will make one resolution. It's not to belabor a simple point and stretch it out to 10 minutes. I wanted to reach out and strangle myself.
Oh my
Listening to
God,
that.
Baines.
Awful.
All of us do that. All of us belabor things.
I guess hearing yourself, it makes it like, whoa, dude, you made your point, Baines.
Well,
Now shut up.
people,
Yield the floor.
pay money and you'll be able to see that next week. Or whatever. Pay your money, all those videos.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, so you'll be able to see some belaboring for a while to come. Imagine.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye now. I like that. George Bush Jr.